Moved everybody to Croy to Caldwell in 1937. The reason given was that the sewerage which weren't adequate. But with them all moving together, they just more or less moved north into a new environment. But I mean, the Croy folk, I wanted to go back to Croy. I mind during the war, there was a lot of tanks, army tanks in operations, and none of them went into the side of the brig, and that was just about the end of the old brig. It never was right after that. Croy was dead by the time the war came on.
Adolf Hitler unsheathed fascism's knife and slew my wains. We mind with drum and lamenting fife their hallowed names.
I can remember the very day it broke out, because my mother was crying because she had a brother in the territorials, and she knew that he would be away straight away. They were caught up first.
We just arrived one day. We were outside, my brother and I remember we were playing out here. These military cars were over, so an officer got out. They said, we want to look at the house. So we looked round the house and they said, right, we're requisitioning it. And they must have had a convoy of vehicles not far down the road because they were here within hours. And we as kids, we had the job of rushing around all the bathrooms and whatnot and recovering even things like soap, which of course were still left in the bathrooms and were quite scarce in wartime. So after that it became a Polish convalescent hospital. And that was, to a young kid, that was quite disturbing in a way. You know, the people who had been tortured by the Russians and beaten up, and there were quite a few epileptics. And we'd be walking down the road with some of them, they just collapse on the ground in a fit, you know, sort of foaming at the mouth. And I mean, we didn't know what to do. It was really quite an experience. We used to listen to news about, I'm sure, 6 times a day, you know, and it was worth listening to because the rate of change is so fast. I remember all the names, you know, El Alamein, the Qatar Depression, Benghazi, as the Allies were driven back to Alamein and then advanced again. That made a big impression.
And the night that Clyde Bank got a terrible blitz, and they dropped an awful lot of the incendiaries over in the hills at Kellerholm, and we were all standing outside our door watching the flames and the fires in the hills. And my mother's brother lived in Clydebank, and the day after the Clydebank blitz, him and his wife landed at my mother's door in their pyjamas. Their house was obliterated.
We very nearly lost, and if we had, well, what would that have been like?
Peace returns and the years unroll, the rise and fall of old King Cole. The ghastly spectre o' the dole returns to haunt us. MPs plead, guarantee, cajole, with empty promise.
But there was a lot of the young fellas, once they came 18, the boys in the pit were making double the wages they were making in the farms, so a lot of them come into the pits and off the farms to get more money.
There wasn't such a thing as a pit, a Sanquhar pit, because actually Gateside was in the Kirkconnell parish. But there was the Gateside, Tourmine, you'd follow Heath, Peniel, the Rig. That was all the pits that I can think in this area.
I was always going to go my way. I told my mother when I was ready for working I was going to go back to Larco and get a job there, because there were never really very much other than the pits, and then factories gradually come in.
entire district was dependent on coal. The majority of people worked in the coal mines, and I'm including Kirkconnell here because Kirkconnell and Sanquhar are really part of this district. And at Faldhead, the main mine in the district in Kirkconnell, over 1,000 men worked. And if you multiplied that out with a wife and 2 or 3 children each, it was a huge population, all dependent on coal. But these in turn spawned other industries. There was a need for mechanics to service the miners' cars. There were a need for painters and joiners, and so it went on. And when the coal industry just died with one dreadful blow in the 1960s, the surrounding area was absolutely devastated. And Sanquhar probably was in a better condition to cope with this than, say, Kirkconnell or New Cumnock, who entirely were dependent on this coal.
But again, when I came out the army, I tried to get into Faldhead, but they wouldn't give us a job, and that was in 1966. The Gateside pit shut in 64, and the Faldhead shut in 68.
I remember, like, my granny lived in the main street, and she used to decorate her house for the riding of the marches, and at that time they used to give us shots in the horses that were here, because they were here like a full fortnight.
The riding of the marches takes place over roughly 10 days. They have on the first Sunday what you call the kirking of the cornet, where they're taken to the church along with the Queen and attendants and as many past principals as possible. They also go to the War Memorial and lay a wreath.
After that we go to Matthew's Folly, and the flag's put up, which is the breaking out of the flag for the year, and the horses then ride off.
Basically the Burrows and Festival as they talk about.
The Monday, well, we usually had crazy games or something on.
They'd run in at the Lodmore Park, and you won your race, you got $1 or 5 shillings for winning the race, and you try to get into the bigger race to see if you could come second and get half a croon or something, Ken.
The cornets and ensigns for previous years, along with the new ones, they gather together and they form a choir, and they come and they entertain the old folk. On the Thursday, well, I've seen us having a ceilidh.
Friday night you have the proclamations. The borough piper and halberdier go around the town proclaiming that the riding of the marches will take place on the Saturday. At 8 o'clock, that is when the principals are actually sworn into office. Then they really are the cornet's lads and the ensign. Following that, they parade up to the square where they meet with the riders and set off to ride the marches at approximately 8:20 in the morning.
You always feel, no matter whether you're on the street or on a horse or the decorated floats. There's a huge build-up to this week in the off-field part of it's great.
They follow what they call the coal road going towards Croyt village. Up the Miller's Brae and to the Angle Park. And it's at the Angle Park where the Borough Charter is read out.
Whereas the town of Sanquhar in the county of Dumfries
and the junior councillor is dumped. It's probably part of the original claiming ground. They head on up through the town and then up Matthew's Folly. Usually what happens is that the younger ones walk up the folly itself. Those who take part in the gallop will get into the field next to it and go hell for leather up the hill. From there they make their way to Lochside Farm. The corner's lass and ensign are led up to the farmer's field and the farmer gives them a drink out of what they call the stirrup cup.
Thank you very much. We hope to welcome you here for many, many years to come.
After that they head back over the farm grounds to the green loaning and what they call the chases are held there.
They come back to the town and the cornet gives his report on the borough marches.
And I'm pleased to report the 9th crowning has been made thereon.
We then have the ceremony of the crowning of the Queen.
Want to enjoy the remaining festivities of the day. Thank you.
And then from there they get ready for the actual parade around the town.
It's absolutely heaving on the Saturday afternoon. You get folk and they just seem to sit there the whole day.
At 5 o'clock, my father used to love this. You get the bands marching right down Sanquhar can. It was the highlight of the event.
Normally on the Sunday we go to Matthew's Folly to take the flag down and that signals the end of the proceedings for the week. And believe me, everything goes very, very flat after that.
Well, you get a wee bit disappointed, you can think, oh well, that's it again, Ken, for another year. About a month after riding the marches, we start going into preparation for the next year.
Foot and mouth disease was very prevalent in the border country. Now, the border country is march riding country, and just about every riding was affected this year. They've held events, but not the horse riding part of the events, and these have been badly missed.
Right up to about a month ago, there's been no movement really of stock. We've just started to move things now, and we've just heard, I think, last week that Scotland is now a free area.
Everyone in the south has the same problem, so I think it could even maybe be a very special year.
gamble, I tell you I'm your man. Win some, you lose some, it's all the same to me. The pleasure is to play, makes no difference what you say. I don't share your greed, the only card I need is the ace of spades, the ace of spades. Playing with the high one, dancing with the devil, going with the flow, you know it's all the same to me. 7 or 11, snake eyes watching. Double up or quit, double stake or split. Ace of spades, ace of spades. In your eyes, take what you die. The only thing you see, you know it's gonna be the ace of spades.
If we had gone to the extreme this year and said, well, as Dumfries did, and said, right, we're doing nothing, the whole bottom would have fell out of the market.
There could be a lot more done, but it's alright for me sitting looking on. If we're not prepared to get up and do something about it, well, what else can we expect?
As long as we've got the folk working for us, I think it's the riding of the marches is secure.
Generally, our youth is leaving for further climbs. They go for education mainly. They may come back as they're older, but it's a kind of no very nice thought.
I think it is good for the community because it's a time that everybody seems to pull together and everybody's friendly, and I think it is a good thing.
I think the days of mass production and huge plants is gone, but there are many opportunities that I hope we would grasp as a community to bring industry into the area.
Tourism will never ever replace industry, but today it's probably all we've got.
Well, I don't know, I've always that kind of feeling that we're kind of left out. We're in a bad position. I mean, we're right at the periphery of Dumfriesshire. We get the crumbs that's left kind of thing, I think.
It's a good enough wee place, the folk's good enough in it, and I mean, we'll just have to make the best of it.
I don't think you'll beat the quality of life we've got in Sanquhar. We moan like any other place, but at the end of the day, we're not too badly off.
I might be a pile of old shockled stain, but I'm proud to bear old Sanquhar's name. When another 1,000 years are gane, o' joys and tears, with pride I'll still watch our ma wains. I'll aye be here.